Hey, Harvest. Hope everybody's day was pretty good. I know everybody's probably trying to get home and trying to make sure they get themselves adjusted after being out in traffic and probably in the grocery store. So I won't be long, but we need to come on and say something in light of this coronavirus and our plans for our worship service. Because I'm sure many of you are flooding the grocery stores or have been there, and it's just kind of hectic and crazy. So just want to talk to you about this virus that is spreading across our country and even our local community here. But as we talk about it, first thing I want to bring across is that as a church believing community, we want to make sure that we do not panic. So that's the first thing. We cannot begin to operate from a panicked position, because what tends to happen is we make bad decisions, and those bad decisions puts us in bad positions. And so we don't want to be in a bad position, so to speak, because it brings about certain consequences that are not favorable or to our liking. So we don't want to panic, because it also helps to open us up to fear. And we don't want to begin to fear because first and foremost, God didn't give us a spirit of fear. And so we should not go into any circumstance, situation with fear, but we should go in with boldness and confidence, knowing that we are children of God and He's got us covered. That's what we got to remember. There are a lot of tweets and Facebook posts about Psalm 91 and all the things that God says He would do, and we wholeheartedly embrace that as a church, Harvest for Christ Church. So with that said, don't panic. Don't give ourselves over to fear, because it puts us in a bad situation. It opens the door for the enemy to come in and begin to take advantage of our emotions, and we just put ourselves in a bad situation. So we don't want to do that. Secondly, we do want to exercise our faith in terms of looking towards to God. In terms of praying, we want to pray, number one, that He brings an end to this virus and the spreading of it, that He would cause it to cease, number one. And then two, we want to pray for healing and restoration of those individuals that have been affected by it, that their bodies would completely heal and they would experience God's love by that particular means and way. We want to pray that not only God will bring a solution to the medical crisis, but we want to see Him bring a solution to the financial crisis that this is going to cause for those who are affected in terms of work and daycare and all of the other financial ramifications. We believe God can help us in those situations, and we want to be a praying community that shows our love for our community through Christ by praying for them. So let's make sure we do that. Let's make sure that we use some just common sense practices that the CDC has communicated, like the washing of hands consistently. Also using hand sanitizer as well, making sure that it has 60% content of alcohol. And so we want to do those common sense practices, coughing or sneezing in the inside of our elbows or in tissues. Those are just some common sense practices that we need to do. And if we do those things based upon what the CDC has communicated, we should be okay. Also, we want to make sure that we are keeping our distance as we are going out, especially around those who are exhibiting symptoms, coughing, sneezing. We want to keep a 5 to 6 foot distance from people like that, because we understand that it is communicated or transmitted by by person-to-person contact, not necessarily airborne, just floating around all in the air. So we don't want to walk into sneezes, anything of that nature, and we don't want to be touching a lot of people, especially those who are exhibiting symptoms. Now, moving on to our worship service, we are going to have our normal 10 o'clock worship service. I prayed and wanted to get guidance from God. I believe I got the green light. And so we're going to do that. We're going to have an hour and a half service, and we'll make sure we're using best case practices common sense practices where that's concerned. So we will be able to do what the early church did. We'll pray and we'll continue in the apostles' doctrine. We'll receive our teaching. We will have just a little bit of fellowship, not much, a little fist bumping or elbow bumping, and that's about it. No hugs or anything like that. This is not our Sunday to take communion, so we don't have to be concerned about that. So we will have service for those who are desiring to come in and yet still continue our normal everyday practices. For those of you that don't, hey, we're not going to argue with anybody. We just trust that you're making your decision based upon what God has communicated to you. And then lastly, we had a Saturday service for Pastor Naba. From my understanding, it's still going on at 6 p.m. Saturday. And so those of you that decide to come out and support, please do that. Also, I was notified by him today that the speaker for Sunday at 4 p.m. Was coming from, I think it is England or London, and they couldn't fly out because all the flights had been canceled. And so he's requested me to do the Sunday service as well at 4 o'clock. And so we'll have a service at 6 o'clock Saturday, tomorrow, and then a service on Sunday at 4 o'clock. So make sure you're in prayer for me about ministering to that congregation and just trying to be a blessing to them as God would have us do, because they're expecting God to move in their lives. And so we want to make sure that we are a vessel of honor that God can minister to. The worship team is supposed to be singing, I know for certain, on Saturday. So let's make sure we support them in any way, shape, form that we can. All right. Love you, Harvest. Bless you, and talk to you soon. Bye.